Everybody. I'm back today with Toshi, and this is always like a pleasure to pull Toshi on here, and so you guys can hear his insights. Toshi is a trainer and a green checkmark facilitator, so he's much more than that. Like he's been involved in a lot of the development with me and Dan, like on the really deep insights of KI. Toshi put together the map for us. So he has a really depthful understanding of the work, very skillful. So I like to let him come on here and you guys get to know him a little bit more. Hey, Toshi.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thanks.
The other thing Toshi and I have in common is that this is not who we are, but we are anger repressors. So we have that in common. We can, like, what do you say? Like, we're both musicians, so we're going to riff on that today, probably. So, um, I got a few topics. And I want to start with this question about responsibility, Toshi.
Yeah.
So we were talking before the video, and I was saying, or you were saying that when I say responsibility, it's not like a person has to take responsibility and go do stuff. And you describe what taking responsibility means in this path. Can you elaborate for everybody?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for me, responsibility and freedom have to the same thing to me. It has to come when the freedom is, I don't know, when freedom is here, responsibility is here already. So I consider responsibility to be a natural part of us that's already here when a program starts to move away. So when I say be responsible, I'm not saying be responsible, of what's happening out there, or what why you're triggered and stuff like that. But be responsible for my feelings, my suffering. So the reason why that I have to take responsibility or whatever it is because I'm triggered, because I shadowed you out, or because I'm angry. And to see that is the responsibility to say that I'm actually creating this because I'm angry and I can't repress it and I have to be angry and all that to see that is the responsibility. And it's not like this another program called Toshi is doing that. It's just naturally there to see it, to be conscious of it is the responsibility. Then comes the freedom. So it's a kind of same thing or similar things to me. Like, yeah.
Well, you and I were talking about that, is that we both come to see, because we're talking about repression here, just so everybody understands, we're not just talking about overt anger or overt sadness. We're talking about buried stuff here and taking responsibility for that. So as we were talking about, being on this path, Toshi and I were talking about it, is something that we've seen is, we started out with like, I'm not angry. And then we see, oh yeah, I am. And then we see, I don't want to let go of that, our back door. But then that turns into, for some of us, I have to be angry. I've had to be angry all my life. I just buried it. So that's how I also see responsibilities. Once I've seen that now, I can see that I actually have to be angry on an unconscious level. It's not anybody else doing it. So it's my responsibility to make that conscious. That's helped me to see it that way. What would you say about that?
Yeah, exactly. So then if I have to be angry, that means I'm creating this. So anything happens out there, I'm responsible. Or you cannot deny the fact. As soon as you see that, you're being responsible already. If you can make that part of you conscious, the fact that I have to be angry, I have to be scared, I'm creating this. And anything as a result of that, whatever you want to call that, if there's any, is my responsibility, you could say. It's because I'm actually telling myself to be myself, to be angry. Like, so, and to see that is is the responsibility, but also a freedom. That's when it gets really non-dual for me in this work. But I won't go into that too much. But yeah.
Well, I hope you will. I mean, I think that we want to let people know that this is a non-dual path. And you came to me this morning saying, yeah, this really is non-dual. And I want
Yeah.
to talk to you about that. What is it that makes you say that? Like coming out of repression, this is really an embodied path.
Yeah.
What do you have to
Yeah,
say about it?
sure. So I came to KI because I was suffering, and I came here looking for relief to be healed, right? But as I start to unpack my programs and all these things that I was telling myself, what I was believing unconsciously, I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I'm a failure. But all that I had to believe in those things because I couldn't be angry, and that I didn't see because I just didn't think I was an angry person. But that's what anger repressor feels like. It's just like I had to be nice at all costs, people pleasing and all that stuff, so that I couldn't be angry. So I'm just So I've lost my thoughts there. So I had to be angry, but so I came here, but the guy who came here looking to be released, the more I unpack myself, the Toshi who came here had to be put on the chopping block to be looked at. So the guy who came here to do the inquiries, he's the guy who's seeking safety. He's the guy who needs to be healed. So he has to be put on the chopping block, right? So then you unpack, and that's when. So how I talk about it is this is safety, this is freedom, and I came here safety. I'm choosing safety most of the time in my life. I have to get love from somebody. I have to be like this so that I get love and all that stuff. Choosing safety unconsciously. I didn't see this unconsciously. I'm just grabbing everything from non-dual ideas, awakening, to everything so that I don't have to feel my anger, right? So choosing safety all the time. But now when you start to do KI work, I'll go in between. This is freedom here, and this is safety. And this is a real hard point. This is where you can land really heavily onto, KI is not working. Scott, you're not listening to me, all that stuff, because it's really scary at this point, because you have to really start to fall with the freedom. So that's what's happening. But now when you start to get the freedom, I'm not saying I'm all the way here, but things look very different from this side to how it looks from this side. So yeah, and the freedom, as I said earlier, freedom means responsibility too. So I start to naturally take responsibility of my suffering. I can't help it. If I'm triggered, it's nothing to do with really why am I triggered? Is it my shadow? Is it because I don't want to be angry? Yes, I don't want to be angry, and I can't be angry. It's that fear, and that is my suffering. So when you really start to see things that the responsibility comes, and now, like what we find and what you'll find, Scott, is like, yes, I'm angry and I can't be angry. I'm scared to be angry. That's the repression, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now I have to be angry and I have to be scared. When I
Yeah.
start to see that, that means I'm creating absolutely everything. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah, and that to me, and I was talking to Dan about this yesterday. Dan said to me, like, like if the repression is like, don't be yourself, don't be yourself. But I also saw this, I have to be myself, be yourself too. And when that need to be myself, need to be angry, need to hate, because I couldn't get here without allowing my anger first. So don't jump to this place. We can
Right.
talk about it separately, I guess. But when I'm allowed to be angry now, I still see like there's some energy that's running to hate or whatever it is, like an agenda with it. But when I really see that clearly, like I have to be angry, like I have to be scared. So when you start to see that I'm creating everything,
Yeah.
what is that? And I've been looking for that, and it feels so far it feels like just me. I have to be myself, and when that starts to fall away, this is like what I said, like a non-dual experience. So I have been experienced this through KI already, but just like the need to be somebody, need to be something, need to have an agenda, need to, I don't know, be this separate thing,
Yeah.
that's what I mean by non-joy, if that makes sense. When I really start to, then it's the flow or whatever it is just here. Now I can speak from it and I can talk from it. And I could never do, because any non-joy pointing, if I was taking safety all the time, I had to grab it and play in my pocket and walk
Right.
around with it and put it out, because I had to use it for something. But now there's no need to grab anything. Everything's here. That's the inside out path.
Yes.
Then all the non-dual point is here. And although I criticize it a lot, but because it's misguided and I don't know, it's people only talking about half of the story. They're not talking about what we're talking about here. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's harmful. I think it's dangerous. But anyway, I won't go into too much about that. But so that's what I mean by it's a non-dual thing. So, and I also just want to say how, yes, I came to KI thinking it's a modality to heal myself and fix myself, but it's when you start to come to the freedom side, it's a real path of embodiment, or like there's no other words for it. And it's not what I ever thought it was. Because
Yeah.
I'm meeting myself. Everything that I get triggered about is an invitation to find out more about myself.
Yeah.
And I don't have to believe it. And it's here. Like, okay, yeah, little Toshi or whatever who was wounded, who was bullied and all that stuff that it's gone unconscious. I don't know anything about it. But I'm moving from it. Like, I know about it. But now every trigger is showing me all this part of myself that I don't know, and I feel like I'm claiming all that back. But that doesn't mean I believe it and I'm like this and I'm like, no. You just need to be conscious of it. So you can just say you can hand it back to awareness or whatever language you want to use, but then it just the real embodiment to nobody sort of feel. But anyway, yeah, I leave it at
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, so when people, speaking of the non-dual, when people came to me and they said you're suffering, they're suffering, I didn't know the root of it back then because I was unconscious. So speaking of non-duality, it's like when you say we have to put ourselves on the chopping block, if we have repression, there's a part of ourselves that we can't put on the chopping block. You
Yeah.
know, the part, like if you're angry repressor, the part that I have to be angry and afraid never gets on the chopping block.
Yes, yes,
That's the
yes.
problem, right? So with this is why this is different. The other part of the story here is we're saying that which is buried, that's running everything, has to
Yeah,
be on the chopping block, not just the stuff that it's creating. And that's the difference here. So let me go to
yeah,
my question. My question is there's a difference between getting to the root that you buried, which I've been calling our main identification recently. Like, because once you realize I am angry and afraid, you realize, well, that's the strongest identification of my entire life. But I
yeah,
buried it. That's how I
yeah,
feel, at least. So when that starts to happen, we're in a different place, right? It's where you're processing differently at that place. But earlier, speaking of non-dual, when people would come here and I didn't know the source of the suffering exactly,
mm,
then I, like so many other teachers, would have them be looking at the effects of it.
mm,
Now, speaking, my next question is the hierarchy of safety.
yeah,
Within our unconsciousness, there's a hierarchy. Like some things are just safer than other things, and this is how we bypass. So let me just mention one hierarchy, and I think this will lead you into talking about more of the hierarchy. But the one that I noticed first as a teacher was between the visible stuff and the repression. So it's just simply safer to look at a deficiency story than it is to go to the rage,
yeah,
or the anger, safer. And so I did that as a teacher and I'd shadow all the things that were safer. Okay, I'll look at those things, but I'm not getting on the chopping block. Not the real me is not getting on the chopping block, not the
yeah,
real identifications that I buried, the safe stuff. And there's
yeah,
a hierarchy there. So
yeah.
let's talk about that and how you've noticed that hierarchy. And there's probably other hierarchies or other aspects of the hierarchy you want to talk about.
Yeah, I think for me it's really clear when I look at the map. You're familiar with the repression map, the three dimensions. So that is the hierarchy to me. So the first dimension is more safer than the second dimension. Still unconscious, but still, it feels safer than the emotion that we really don't want to feel, which is the third dimension. So that I see that as a hierarchy. So yeah, yes, I'd rather see the fact that I'm a failure and I'm not good enough than feel my anger. But I don't want to see that becomes unconscious too. So when I came here, yes, I felt those things like I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm unlovable. I knew that as a sensation or something, but I never seen the thoughts because I pushed that back too. So that was unconscious because it wasn't safe for me to believe that. I'd rather believe that you did this to me. That's why I feel this. Or, all the shadow stuff is a lot safer than your unconscious belief system, your second dimension, or anything that's already up for you. So when you sit down in a meditation, everything that comes up, just seeing that is just so much safer than even seeing the fact that I'm a failure, because that was still scary to admit that I'm unlovable. Although you feel it, so. And what is interesting that I was talking to you about this, so then is chronic pain safer,
Mhm.
then then what to believe about, but I
Yeah,
guess to the point, because the reason why chronic pain is there is so that I didn't have to feel my emotions, so it had
yeah,
to go somewhere. And
right.
yeah, I don't know if you want to say much about that too, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, you asked me that, and I was saying, and I had to sit with it. Yeah, it's safer because with the disease and the chronic pain, it's not even an emotional issue.
yeah, yeah.
See, so that's real safe.
It's
It's a
real safe. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and
to
in
say this is physical. Yeah,
yeah, in the hierarchy of emotional safety, that's really safe because it's not emotional. That's how I saw it.
yeah,
See,
yeah,
but
yeah,
now when I see that there's emotions in it, then that's what makes it unsafe. The anger repression behind the pain is the thing that was
yeah.
really scary. That's the thing that's scary. But no, the pain, if I can
Mm,
call the anger repression pain, no, that's safe emotionally.
yeah. Yeah, and also it's coming to me also the first time is your compulsions are safer than even the deficiency stories, So I don't
Yeah.
want to. So I'd rather get high or watch porn or watch, I watch Netflix for hours and hours, or I go into meditation. That movement is a safety movement because I don't want to feel something, so I
Mhm.
must soothe something. So soothe myself or any of that, so that we can really feel it. If you're become conscious of some of the things that's running unconsciously, you really get to see like, wow, I'm just choosing
Everything.
safety with no choice. I have to.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally. Okay, so here's my last, these are big questions and might take a while to answer this, but You mentioned repression work as a path, and there's an insight there that you have about that you wanted to talk about repression work as a path. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Yes, I've kind of talked about that because we started off with the responsibility stuff. Because to me, like all the path meaning like a spiritual path or like I don't know, like to awakening or whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm seeing now. Because I said earlier, like I came to KI just to be healed and to be relieved from my pain, from my depression, all that stuff. But now it's like 10,000 times more than that. You know, it's like I said, the guy who came here seeking safety had to be put on a chopping block. But then when you see that, like everything I was doing was seeking safety. But when you really start to unpack that, because yes, it sounds like I came here knowing I was doing that, but no, I was blind as anything else. I was unconscious. So what we do here, you know, we always say from the beginning, what we do in care is make unconscious conscious. That's all we're doing if you really want to break it down.
Yeah, that's what we're
But
doing.
that has a different weight to it now, where because the suffering was because I was unconscious. You know, there is nothing else. Why am I suffering? Because I'm unconscious. I don't know what I'm telling myself. I don't know
Right.
what I'm telling myself. I'm angry or don't be angry and then you just feel it, and you know, and I'm scared because I was unconscious. As you know, as people who do the work, as soon as you see those thoughts, as soon as you see the program, like yeah, I don't need to feel this because it just need to be
Right.
felt,
Yeah.
right? But all the childhood programs and stuff like that, and it feels like undoing, it feels like a work as a healing. But when
Yeah.
you start to keep open and start to taste the fruits of it or something, then it becomes an invitation to deepen ourselves, like meeting more of Toshi that I was unconscious about. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know half of the Toshi that unconsciously moving from me, but now I'm meeting him. Or it's weird to talk about it in this way, but it, yeah, I'm talking about it in this way because it's just more about meeting myself more and more and more, and it feels like it's more, and there's a real beauty and there's a real, I don't know, real magic, and just I don't know, it's just mystery and more opening more space. This so because I don't live in this small world where I knew everything. Like I thought I knew something, like to accumulate knowledge. Toshi is like, see, Toshi doesn't like this. These people like this. I like these people. When you start to really look at them, that doesn't mean those things gonna go away. Like I still don't like these people. I still have the, but I don't have to do it out of safety. Like there's a freedom there. So everything is coming back to me because I had
Yeah.
to push away everything so that I don't have to feel something. And that's going, oh, unconscious. And I'm moving like, oh, this is my personality. Toshi is like this. Toshi doesn't get angry. But no, let's look. And all this coming back. Yeah, I can still not be angry if it's okay. I can still be nice. I can really be nice if I want to, because I'm not
Yeah.
doing it out of safety. And
Right.
this is with the real stuff, like
Right.
this, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Uh, okay, so I have one more question then. If that's repression as a path, or this work as a path, um, I haven't asked you what you would say about this, but since you were a seeker and you were probably in the kind of awakening like I was, where there's a real focus on the awareness
Mm.
recognition, presence. How do you put that in this now? If knowing that you can actually embody realization just by making things conscious, where do you put this focus on that? What do you think about that now?
Yeah, so I've had my seeking, I had my experiences, and I thought I've seen everything, like, and I've grabbed that because I was still seeking safety. So all I could do is to grab those awareness experience, whatever it is, when awareness is just here, right? But when you start to unpack here, to see the programs, you really get to see like all those pointings to be real. Like I'm you know, yes, I did non-dual pointing, but all of them I'm speaking from it. There's nobody here. You know, if there's a programs running, is there anybody here? No, nobody's here. You
Yeah.
know, it's just life happening, and that feels so true. But if I say that, I couldn't hear it, and I don't know many people can really hear that, and I think it's irresponsible for me to speak like that. So whenever I need to point to awareness, it's end of the session or something when someone has actually seen through their programs and they see unpacked,
Yeah.
and they don't even have a knowledge of awareness or anything like that. They say, but Toshi, wow, there's this huge space and there's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
something has gone away and I just feel expansive. Yeah, that's when I start to really point to about awareness or to bring in a concept of non-duality. Then they don't have to think about it. They can feel it and
Yeah.
they see it because it's there. It's
Uh,
always here. Like
yeah.
it's not, but you can't see that because the repression is away from, this. It doesn't, it can't be here. It has to grab, it has to go into the future or the past. That movement itself seems like, but when that starts to loosen, people can really embody that understanding if they already know it, or
Yeah.
it's the best time to point to it when you really start to see these safety programs that I have to be me, or I can't be me, or whichever way. So yeah.
It's interesting because my audience is more mature than that. Like, because people don't come here very often looking for the awareness recognition because they know that the trauma is driving it.
Yeah.
Like, so they'll just do the work to make things conscious. But every now and then, there'll be somebody who will come to me who hasn't watched what I'm doing in the last 3 or 4 years, and they want me to point to the awareness recognition. And that's always an interesting session because instead of pointing to it, I show them how they don't want to feel something. And
Yeah.
instead that they're seeking that they don't want to feel something, it's a really rich session. But they come out of there changed because they came to me thinking I'm going to wake them up to their true nature. And what I showed them is your avoidance and why you're seeking that.
Yeah.
And but it shifts them in a good way. Yeah, because then they become ready to stop avoiding. But I don't know, I wanted to share that. And I
Yeah,
thought maybe
definitely.
you change the way you've talked to people about that too.
Completely. I mean, I even have a resistance even talking about it, like, but like, just like you, I'd rather point to something that's not awareness rather than awareness, because every time you point to awareness, they will just look at that, like, how, the saying say, don't look at the moon, look at what's pointing the moon. Like, I have to point to
Right.
something that's not awareness, which is what you're saying about, what is there something that you don't want to feel here? Is there need to
Yeah.
find awareness or something like that, right? Because that is the only way to,
Right.
if it, to get to it, if it's somewhere to get to it. It's because
Yeah.
we're just giving them things to land on, to bypass. That's why it feels like every time I talk about non-duality. So like, I'm sure but I've been talking to you about how do we even need to point awareness to KI? Because I really feel more and more that KI is much more universal than that. And then it's quite scientific, If you can feel your sensation in your body, we don't need to, we can start without, really going to the awareness and just check, how do you feel? Am I
Yeah.
angry? No, yes, I am angry. If they feel that, I think, and I've been working with people like that. But then when they really start to see and they'll ask themselves, what's happening here? Then I can point to them. They'll make more sense to them. They don't have to grab it for safety. But if that's what something I
Right.
say in
Right.
the
Right.
beginning, it's like, yeah, because they want to heal. If you told me when I first came, yeah, Scott, the non-duality, I need to get all this non-dual stuff so that I don't have to feel something. That's what I did. But no, you turn around, you told me to look what's here, exactly the same thing. Then I can really
Yeah.
hear it. It's not about hearing it anymore, just seeing it in myself that it's there. It's not like, yeah. So anyway, yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Toshi. I'm sure that people enjoy this. I'm going to bring you back periodically so people can hear more. If you want to work with Toshi, again, he's a trainer. You're doing sessions, you're doing mentorship, or are you doing
Yeah.
mentorship? Training.
Training, mentorship. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're really serious about this, and if you really wanna, if you resonate, then yeah, I'm really happy to work with people who's honest, really. And yeah, it's my joy.
Uh,
So
if you want to work with Toshi, go to kilby.com. You'll see
that's it.
everything. Toshi there. Thank you, Toshi.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. Thanks.